In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
The praying of the Rosary is made possible by the E.J. and Marjorie B. Orso Family Foundation and the Francis family, and by the Daily Mass and Rosary are also made possible by support in loving memory of the Crusto, Jupiter, Saulney, Prevost, and Wilson families, Gloria Saulney Curtis, Honora Flory Curry, Michael Anthony Graham II, Ernest J. Gaines, Maria Smith Williams, May Jupiter, Ramona Jupiter, Sister Greta Jupiter, Lynn Peychaud Garnett, and Clyde Jupiter.
Hi, I'm Eric Asher, host of Inside New Orleans Sports. Join me every Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. for a live broadcast of Inside New Orleans Sports, featuring a reporters roundtable with local media members that cover the Saints, Pelicans, LSU, Tulane, and prep sports. Don't forget your calls are always welcome. That's Inside New Orleans Sports, Thursdays 6 to 7 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Fridays 10 to 11 p.m. on WLAE-TV.
You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams for you. The New Orleans Saints, the LSU Tigers, the Tulane Green Wave, the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll talk a little about high school sports as well. One of the best we have in the state, one of the best in the city. Ed Daniels, sports director at WGNO Channel 26 Sports, joins us on the program, also part of CrestCitySports.com, and of course part of the longest running radio talk show, sports radio talk show here in the city, the Three Tailgaters as well. Ed, welcome to the show. Always great to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Before we get started, tell us about everything guys are involved in. You got so much going on over at Channel 26. You got the SEC coming. You've always done some great shows. Again, it's high school central. You want to know what's going on in high school in this town, you go to Channel 26. Tell us all about it.
Well, in February 9th, we'll be starting Friday Night Sports again. I think it's for the 10th or 11th year. And then in April, we'll have Friday Night Fastball, both of them the spin-offs of Friday Night Football.
Right.
That
One's
cover
basketball, one's baseball. Right?
basketball, soccer,
Okay.
and then in the start of baseball, and then once we get into the teeth of the baseball season in April, and of course in May when it ends.
Right.
And then of course in August, we'll start up our 33rd season of Friday Night Football.
Can you believe it's been that long? That's longevity.
You know, Eric, it's really funny. When the show started in 1992, it was, of course, JT and I,
Right.
and we were at the World Trade Center, and we were an independent then. We were an ABC affiliate,
Right.
And the show started at 10:30, so it was pretty crazy getting that thing launched and getting it underway. But you know, you learn to get better and better every year. Well, anyhow, the show started on a Friday night, and I said, you know what? I'm really excited about doing this program. And when I walked out the door that night to my car, and we always parked at the Hilton garage,
Yeah.
and when I walked out of my car out to my car that night, I said to myself, I'm going to do this show for at least 35 years. That's what I told myself, and I've always had that as at the very least a benchmark, and to think that we're getting to season 33 is pretty crazy. You know, I really didn't think a whole lot about the longevity thing until we got to about 20, 25, you know what I mean? You get to 20, 25, you're like, wow, you've been at it a little bit. And I really felt like, to be honest, I really felt like it took us about 8 to 10 years to have the traction that we wanted. That's all.
Right. 33 years on television. I mean, that, I don't want to say it's unprecedented, but it's not usual.
Correct.
Right? I mean, come on. I mean,
Right.
again, in any market, right?
Well, you know, I've had the support of management over the years, and I've also think that in return that we've delivered them a quality product, and that's important. And frankly, you know, I think every once in a while, and I don't think about it a bunch, but every once in a while I'll be driving along, I'd be going, you know, what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? And I don't have an answer.
Right.
Okay, and I really haven't had an answer since I was about 20. When I was a junior at Loyola, Buddy Diliberto hired me as his first sports intern.
Yeah.
And I walked in there, and I was.
That was Channel 6?
No, that was Channel 8.
Channel 8, okay, Channel 8.
Still on Jeff Davis Highway.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, we had some great news people at that time. Norman Robinson, Larry Lunsford, Alec Gifford.
Yeah.
Nash Roberts was there at the time. Buddy was there.
Yeah.
So Mel Levitt, who was, you know, Ken Berthelot.
Yeah.
We had a you know, Richard Angelico. You could go down the list. We had a ton
Who's
of.
who?
Yeah, we really did. We had for a young person, plus a tremendous amount of talent as far as photographers. Ronald Montelepre, Lloyd Edwards, Roger Barre. I mean, I could go down. I could go down the list of all the people that we had over the years. So when I got into that environment, I said, "Yep, this is what I want to do." So it was pretty funny. I told my buddy Kevin, who we had Saints season tickets together, I said, you know what? I said, look, I've got to leave in the third quarter from now on to go back to the station to get ready for the 5 o'clock news. So if the Saints kicked off at 12 o'clock at the Superdome, I got right here on the Broad Street overpass, got off, and went right over there. And I was usually at the office about 2:45. You wanted to beat all the traffic. I was there about 2:45, starting to help with the 5 o'clock newscast. So you know, it's always been something I've done.
Right.
And you know, I hope I get to do it a long time.
Yeah.
But you know, you never know.
Right. Well, you've done it a long time so far, so let's hope that will continue. It's been a niche for you guys also over at Channel 26 to again promote high school sports. Where does that come from?
Well, you know, when I was a kid, I remember watching the Friday night high school games on WIES.
Okay.
And WIES used to show games on Friday nights. And I remember watching them with my dad. But also, I remember when I was a kid, we were living in Baton Rouge.
Before you were at Rummel? Before you went to high school?
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we were at. We were living in Baton Rouge. My dad was an insurance adjuster,
All right.
General Adjustment Bureau out of New York, and he was in New Orleans, and he got transferred to Baton Rouge. So we went to a game at Memorial Stadium. It was Warren Easton and I think Estruma, and it was like 65 3 maybe. I was 6 at the time,
Right.
and I was like, man, I really love this high school football. It's exciting. So I've always followed it, you know. And then when you go to a Catholic school, you kind of, you know, the people around you. My cousin was a Jesuit missionary. You know, I knew people that went to Holy Cross. I knew people that went to Rummel. You know, and Brother Martin at the time was a budding school, really coming up. So I guess she just got interested. And then when I got to Rummel and I was a freshman, Don Perrette was our football coach, and Don Perrette was a tremendous leader. I mean, we had a coaching staff that at Rummel that was unbelievable. I mean, we had Easton Roth, Don Perrette, Henry Rando, Randy Johnson, Al Pontiff. And you know, and I know I'm George Ryan. I'm leaving some people out. But when you talk about, you know, like they talk about all-star coaching staffs in college football these days, to me, those guys were so good. They were tremendous. And that was kind of the beginning of the ascendancy of Rummel football. Right. And you know, I just remembered that, you know, Coach Perrette was such a big person when it came to school spirit. That's what he wanted. And all the young guys who were at Rummel, whether you played football or not, and I didn't, okay, whether or not you bought into it. And he was a tremendous leader, and he started that whole Raider pride train. So we used to follow what St. Aug was doing. Okay, we followed with all the schools, and then it kind of branched out to that. And then once we got to talking about the program, it was around this time in 1992, and I was talking with our executive producer of local programming, Paula Pendarvis. And I said, look, Paula, I said, one of the things we need to do is, high school football is big in New Orleans, but it's even bigger on the river, and in Tangipahoa Parish, and in Plaquemines Parish, and in Lafourche, in St. Tammany. We've got to go to all of those places. And to her credit, she bought in and committed to it. So what we decided was we were not only going to do a program for New Orleans, but we were going to branch out and go to all the big games in an 11, 12, 13 parish area. And that's how it all started.
And now you look at across the spectrum here in New Orleans, so many other stations jump in there trying to do the same thing, right?
Well, I mean, I think it's great for the kids.
It is. It's good. Well, you've always been a guy that's been on the forefront of promoting high school athletics, so I'm sure you're happy. Again, as many eyes that can be on high school athletics, the better, right?
You know, we've invested in it, and as a station, and you know, we're involved in the WGNO Baseball Classic, which is coming up. And the thing that's really exploded is our high school basketball tournament that we're extremely proud of, thanks to the Allstate Sugar Bowl, who also sponsors the Friday night show, the Allstate Sugar Bowl National Prep Classic. This year we had 60 teams. And
out at the Alario Center, right?
Out at the Alario Center. And our budget, I'm not going to get into the exact numbers, but it was insane, okay? And the one thing that I'm very proud of, and I'm very proud of our staff, because we have the same people working every year, and they're incredibly loyal, and they do an unbelievable job. But we are now the largest single hotel room event in Jefferson Parish. And you know, when we started it in January, people were like, why are you doing it in January? I said, well, I think for hotels it's perfect, because after the Sugar Bowl and before Mardi Gras, what's going on here, Eric? There's not a whole lot going on. And so we decided that's what we were going to do, and it's worked out. It's worked out smashingly.
And of course, how many years now with the Three Tailgaters?
Oh boy, let's see. I would have to say that was 94, 95 maybe.
I've been listening that long.
94, 95. You know, of course, we started at WWL, and then we left in 2001. And we've found, I think, a great partner and a great signal now. You know, at Cumulus Radio and Pat Galloway. I think it's been phenomenal. And I got to be honest with you, when I go to bed on Friday night, I can't go home and go right to sleep. If I go to bed at 1:45 on a Saturday morning, all right, to get up and to go work out and to prep for that show, it's an early reveille. I might get up at 7:30. I've slept 5.5 hours. But you know, it's either do the show or not. And I've decided that, you know, I made a commitment to myself about a year ago that I was gonna do the show as long as I could, and it's been phenomenal.
It's an excellent show.
Yeah, and you know, and look, we have a lot of loyalty, our callers, and different people that call us, and a lot of people that say, hey, I listen, but I don't call in. I said,
It's a Saturday morning tradition.
Yeah, you know, and my deal is, look, call in, you know, call in, chat with us a little bit. But, you know, Kenny's always extremely prepared, and so am I. And you know, and the thing about it is that we speak passionately about things because that's what we like.
Right.
I mean, it was like if you liked wine, okay, my wife would be incredible doing a wine show. She loves wine. Okay, she'd be incredible doing a wine show.
Yes.
Because that's right up her alley.
Right.
That's what she enjoys.
Well, if you can follow your passion, you know, the old thing is you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Well, you know, my dad started taking me to Tulane Stadium. My first visit to Tulane Stadium was in 1963. Okay. My first visit to Tiger Stadium was in 1964. And then, of course, when the Saints started in '67, we went a lot. Yeah. And we had an aunt and uncle, Sam and Anime, who used to live on Clara Street, right off of Nashville.
There you go.
So you had a driveway. So it was awesome.
Right. So you walked to the stadium.
Right. You know, you were 4 blocks from the stadium. Yeah. You left the house at if it's back then the games kicked off at 1. So you left the house at, you know, 10:15, 10:30. Got down there, had a little lunch, walked over to the stadium, and then one of the things that I enjoyed was walking back there. And all the traffic was filtering out, and we would relax and eat and watch the late game. Yeah. And you know, my favorite day of the year, okay, my favorite day of the year was January 1st.
Sugar Bowl? Because
we would go to the Sugar Bowl, and then we'd walk back to the house, and then after that we would all the adults, and I was a kid, okay. All the adults would be in the back yucking it up and cutting it up, and I would watch with my cousins. We would watch the Rose Bowl, and we'd watch the Orange Bowl. So by the time the Orange Bowl was over, I mean, it was 11:15 at night. But it was an incredible day. I loved January 1st. Me too. So many great memories. Yes. And you know, to be at the Sugar Bowl this year, okay, every year that day goes by, and I get to go to that game, it's special. Right.
Well, I want to pivot here for a moment, because you're bringing up the bowl games, and we've discussed in this program, discussed on the radio show, with the playoff coming in, and the transfer portal, and everything that we're seeing right now in terms of, again, that is really kind of watered down the bowl season. Right. What do you think the future of the bowl season is? What do you think the future of the Sugar Bowl will be when it comes to, again, the national championship run, the playoffs?
Well, first of all, I think there'll always be a lot of bowls. And here's why. ESPN owns a bunch of them. I mean, they're made for television. Yes. So ESPN's thinking, you know what? What's going to draw a bigger audience on a Wednesday night and during the Christmas holidays? You know, an NBA game or my bowl game? Right. And the answer is your bowl game. Right. Because people are lunatics in this country about football. They are. Right. Especially now with again legalized sports gambling. Oh, it's gigantic. But also too, Eric, if you look at what happened Saturday night. Okay, where was I Saturday night? Okay, I was at the Endymion Coronation Ball Saturday night, and I was going to set my DVR to record the Chiefs-Dolphins game. But guess what? The game wasn't on NBC, it was on Peacock. Right. And I was like, I wonder how that's going to work out. Not well. 137 million, though. Right. That's what they got in subscriptions. Well, right. That's a lot. But a lot of people boycotted the game because again, they don't want this precedent of again, this being on the game. Not being on. The NFL playoffs should always be on free TV. Always should be on free TV. Okay. Always. And I think the major bowl should always be on free TV, which I think is going to happen because ESPN's a subscriber service. But I think what you're going to see is because Fox is going to be involved in the bidding, and perhaps NBC, that ESPN is going to be forced to put those games on ABC that they have. Right. So I don't know how that's all going to work. That's going to be the new TV deal.
Right.
But ESPN owns so many bowls.
Right. But what about the transfer portal? And again, so many kids that leave. But we've seen this phenomenon with guys that are going to the pros, but we've never seen the mass exit of players before their season is over. When you talk about the bowl games and how that affects it.
Well, let me ask you something. If your body was worth $15 million, would you risk it in that game?
No, of course not, and I understand that.
I mean, look,
I understand
it's a business.
Right.
You know, when people get all upset, I was like, look, college game has changed dramatically. And it's all happened in the last. I remember when Leonard Fournette, when he didn't play in the bowl game, people were outraged.
Yeah.
Now, when you look back at it, the criticism of Leonard was so unwarranted.
It was.
Because everybody does it now. Okay, everybody's sitting out. Nobody criticized Jaden Daniels for not playing in that bowl game. Wisconsin had some opt-outs too.
Yeah, sure they did.
But the one thing that the new playoff system is going to do is that it's going to protect the 6 major bowls, which I think is important.
Right. And is the Sugar part of that, in your opinion?
I think the Sugar Bowl is going to be a part of it.
I think that has to be.
Well, you know, has to be.
And I understand that there are some other stadiums, other cities that are going to be vying for this, and it's money, right?
Well, sure it is. You know,
but it's also prestige.
The one thing I was worried about. Okay, here's the one that I was worried about. Would Nashville supplant New Orleans?
Right.
It's an SEC city. Media Days goes there.
Right.
Okay. Nashville is a booming metropolitan area.
They built a French Quarter on steroids.
Right.
Right.
You know, it's a nice city.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's also 600 or 700 miles, 500 miles, 600 miles north of us. You know, you don't know what you're going to get weather-wise there. Plus, you know, I've been to a lot of these places, and look, when the Saints won the Super Bowl, Miami was tremendous.
Yes, it was.
It was awesome. But there's no big event city like this one.
I agree.
There never will be one. There'll never be one that's constructed like this. Because when you combine the architecture, the history, the French Quarter, walkability,
right?
You know, like if you're the old media headquarters for the Sugar Bowl used to be the Sheraton on the Convention Center Boulevard. So you could walk anywhere you want from there if you're a media member.
Right.
Plus a shuttle came and picked you up every day.
Yes.
Took you to practice. Took you to the game if you wanted.
Right.
You had everything self-contained right there. And you're just not going to get that proximity. You're just not. And plus, you know, I know it's not the most, it's not the newest stadium by far in America.
Right.
But there's dome stadiums, okay, and then there's iconic dome stadiums.
Right.
And in my opinion, the iconic dome stadium is right over our shoulder.
That's right.
And that will never change as long as it's there. And my guess is it's going to be a long time.
A long time.
Okay, and it should be.
Right. And the way it's been, the way it was constructed, it has given us an opportunity to continue to upgrade that building and modernize it.
Right. But when you put all of that together, look, I know Las Vegas is going to be a great Super Bowl host site.
Absolutely.
And they'll have the gambling and all of that stuff, and they'll have it back at some point because of the weather and all of that stuff. I get it. Okay, it's going to be I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl city.
Me too.
But when it comes to iconic games in Super Bowl history and a Super Bowl city, I don't think you'll ever top what we have. Now, that might be I might be parochial in my thinking.
I don't think you are.
But I just feel that way, and being at all these other places and all these games, Atlanta, Dallas, LA, Miami, all those other, they're all great places. They're all, and look, I enjoyed myself tremendously in Miami.
Oh, so did I.
It was
unbelievable.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and the weather was awesome.
Yes, it was.
And Robert O'Shields and I were there for 11 days, and we had a blast.
Right.
Now, we were working crazy hours every day.
Yeah, because I mean, the media center was in Fort Lauderdale, and you know, again, I was in South Beach. That's where we were.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a great time, but I don't think you can ever find the number one tourist destination in America,
Right.
and the number one iconic stadium in America, and the oldest city, one of the oldest cities in America.
Most European city in America.
Most that looks like Europe.
Right.
Okay, it's all here. You can't replicate that anywhere
I would
else.
agree 100%. We're going to take a break here. We come back. We're going to jump into Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Our guest today is Ed Daniels of Channel 26 Sports. We'll be right back.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Ed Daniels, Sports Director, Channel 26 Sports, WGNO-TV in New Orleans, is our guest today. Ed, let's talk Saints first. Mickey Loomis press conference, your impressions yesterday.
Well, you know what? Look, I thought he was more animated than I've ever seen him before.
Huh?
And you know, people have criticized him for chewing the gum.
Right.
But he's got a cough. And he said that at the press conference. So all this stuff about he was impolite chewing gum, no, the man has an ailment, okay? That's why he was chewing the gum. So I thought, you know, right off the bat.
But if you didn't catch the beginning of if you didn't catch it, him saying that, and you see it, you're looking at him like, what are you doing?
Right, exactly.
Right.
But I mean, he explained to everybody in the room he wasn't rude.
Right.
Okay, he wasn't inappropriate.
Right.
He because he didn't want to cough.
Right.
You know, and I get it.
Yeah, me too.
It's the time of the year where you cough.
Hey, look at us. I mean, we're on live TV.
Right. It's the time of year where you cough. You cough or you sneeze.
Right.
And I've done both on live television.
Yeah.
So
you and me both.
Yeah. So I thought the defense of Dennis Allen was interesting.
Right.
Okay. Let's break that down.
Please.
Okay. First of all, he compared him to Chuck Noll. All right. And look, when Chuck Noll took over the Steelers franchise, they were the worst franchise in the NFL by far.
Yes.
They had been historically bad for years.
Yes, they had.
The one thing you could count on if you were a Saints fan in the late 60s, in the infancy of the team, was the Saints always had a chance against the Steelers and always had a chance against the Eagles, because the Eagles were bad for a lot of that time. So when he took over, they had the #1 pick, I think 2-3 years in a row. And he systematically built that team.
Yes, he did.
So I think that was a little bit of an interesting
little bit of a stretch.
Little bit of a stretch. But I think in the context of where the Steelers were when Chuck Noll took over the franchise, and you didn't have free agency, it took time to build things. Right. Same thing with the Tom Landry comparison. You know, I was explaining it to Susie Rosegen yesterday after the news.
Right.
The Dallas Cowboys started in 1960. Well, by 1966, they were in the NFL championship game against the Packers.
Right.
But it systematically took a long time for Tom Landry and Tex Schramm and Gil Brandt to build that organization.
You had to go through the draft. There was no free agency.
You had to build it through the draft. There was no free agency. Right. So it was painstaking, and it was not nearly like the NFL is these days.
Right.
The comparison to, let's see, we've done Chuck Noll. Who was it? Bill Walsh. Belichick.
Belichick and Bill Walsh.
Belichick, when he took over the Cleveland franchise, they weren't in good shape. And they didn't get a lot better under him. Frankly, I think some of his personnel decisions when he was there
Right.
didn't pan out for him. That's why it was a little bit of a surprise, if you remember, going back to 2000 or whatever, that Robert Kraft wanted Belichick so adamantly
Right.
and did everything he could to acquire him as a coach. So Belichick, I get a little of that, okay? And then the other one was Bill Walsh.
Right.
Well, when Bill Walsh took over the 49ers, that was after the O.J. Simpson trade, and they were terrible.
Right.
They were a bad franchise. And it took a while for the 49ers to hit. But when they did, it was because of the draft.
Right.
And of course, in the third round, well, I think it was in 1980, one of the greatest picks ever, Joe Montana.
Joe Montana, right.
Right. But then you back it up with Jerry Rice and then Fred Dean
Right.
and all these guys
All
on
those
defense.
offensive linemen.
Yeah, all those offensive linemen. Roger Craig. I mean, you could go through the list. Wendell Tyler.
Right.
All of these guys that they acquired, all of a sudden, they were a great franchise. So I think he believes in Dennis Allen, but also, look, if they don't win next year, I think pure economics
Right.
are going to force a different decision. Now, can they win next year? Perhaps. It's not going to be as easy. The schedule's not going to be as easy. They have to improve their defense, and they just have to improve as a football team. But with all of that said, and look, I like Blake Grupe. I wish him well. But if Will Lutz would have been kicking in Green Bay, the Saints might be in San Francisco this week playing.
Might be, right.
And you say, oh, well, it's a stretch. Well, they would have been 10-7. And look, in post-season press conferences, both Mickey, I was standing right there when they did, both Mickey Loomis, and I asked Dennis Allen the question, did the Green Bay game get you? And he said, yeah, it basically did. And I might be paraphrasing a little bit. But, when you know your margin for victory is not very, very expansive.
Right.
Okay? I wouldn't have staked my playoff future on a rookie kicker early in the year.
Agreed.
And that's what I was saying at the time. It wasn't a criticism of Blake Grupe, who did a solid job. And they think he's going to be a good kicker for a long time. And maybe he will be. I hope he is. I wish him nothing but success.
Of course.
But what I'm saying, in that situation, okay, I've got to have the guy I know who's been in that spot a million times, and the chances of him making that kick are 98 in 100.
And the question I get all the time is, what has Dennis Allen done to merit another season? Can you explain that to the audience?
Well, if you look at the numbers, they won 2 more games.
Okay. Plus 2 in what was called the weakest schedule in the NFL against the most inexperienced quarterbacks in the NFL.
I agree. But whether you think he has or he hasn't, okay, the Saints did not want to make a change. That's obvious. And they think Dennis Allen is a good coach. Mickey Loomis said yesterday, Dennis Allen is a good coach.
But you also asked the question yesterday again about how critical it was to get to the playoffs, and it sounded to me like he did a little bit of Roger Dodger on the answer.
Yeah.
Because it is critical for them to get to the playoffs next year. I mean, you would think.
Oh, I don't
three
think,
non-playoff seasons, you cannot go a 4th.
Perception is reality.
Right.
But you know what, Eric? In 2018, 2019, 2020, I would go to the office on Monday, and of course, I walk in the door after going to Baton Rouge on Monday. I'd walk in the door about 2:30, and everyone wants to come in the office to talk about the Saints, and I get it.
Right.
Okay, it's a topic of conversation. Sure. What happened the past weekend? Get it completely. So, I'm sitting there, and and these people are coming in the office and they're telling me, Drew Brees needs to retire. And I would tell them all, watch what you look for. You might get it.
Right. Exactly.
And like I told them, I said, look, in 2020, when Drew Brees was hurt, was nowhere near 100%.
Right.
They still averaged 30 points a game. And that was the brilliance of a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. and what the Saints are going through right now is not unexpected. It's not unexpected.
Sure.
I don't know what people expect. When I hear this is such a talented roster, I'm sorry, I disagree.
Right.
Okay? This is a roster that is getting older, and they have not drafted as well over the last 4 or 5 years. I think that is fair.
I think it is too.
Okay? And
Doesn't seem like the general manager thinks that, though.
well, that's his prerogative. Okay? That's his prerogative. But you don't think the draft matters. Let's look at the Detroit Lions.
Right.
All right. They took a running back in the first round and a tight end in the second round. Pick 12, Jahmyr Gibbs. Pick 34, Sam Laporta.
Right.
Both of those guys combined in the regular season had 21 touchdowns.
Right.
And in the playoff win against the Rams, a 1-point victory, they each scored touchdowns.
Right.
So when I asked about the draft philosophy, I just think that they have to have more playmakers.
I agree, but they also have to have more picks, and this constant
Trade up.
trade up, give up a couple picks for players.
Right.
The sweeteners that you got to throw in at the end.
Well, you know what, Eric?
Rick Gailey told me a long time ago, if you got to throw the sweetener into a trade deal, you lose the deal.
Right. And I understand that. But it has paid off at times. Now, that's the philosophy of the club.
At times.
For instance, the Pittsburgh Steelers' philosophy is wherever we draft, that's where we're drafted.
Right.
They don't do a lot of trading. They draft. All right? But if you didn't have that aggressive philosophy, you wouldn't have had Alvin Kamara in the last 8 years.
No, I get that part of it.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
there's hits
Right.
and there's misses. But one of the problems that the Saints have as an organization is that they're never bad enough.
Right.
Because they don't want to be bad. They went through a stretch of 15 or 16 years where they ate steak. Okay? They don't want to go back to hamburger.
Well, they may not
That's
want to go
what-
back, but again, if you don't have the money to pay for the steak, then that's an issue. And
You kick the can down the road.
Right, but it's look, even now, I mean, the Lattimore contract at 2028, they're talking about possibly, again, having to move off some of their veterans. It's impossible based on, again, how they manage the cap.
So my point is about Dennis Allen. In my opinion,
Right.
he inherited a substandard situation.
Okay.
Because if it was a good situation, Sean Payton never would have left.
Well, I do agree with that.
And look, and I'm not criticizing Sean Payton. Maybe he needed
saw the handwriting on the wall.
He needed a year to reset or whatever.
Right.
And you know what? He's earned that.
Yes.
Because of the incredible job he did
Agreed.
here. And we should all appreciate it.
Everybody should.
But he also, I mean, I'm looking down the interstate right now, okay? He looked down the road here and he didn't see sunshine and rainbows.
No.
Okay?
He saw tough times.
He saw tough times.
Right.
And he didn't want to be a part of that.
Right.
And you know what? In that regard, I don't know if I can blame him.
Right. Gruden, do you think he's part of this team next year?
I don't. How do you do that
I don't know,
politically?
because again, if you like your head coach so much, you're going to bring a head coach in waiting behind him.
But also all the other off the field stuff. I mean, how do you sell that?
Right.
It's
to the players and the fans, right?
right. It's a tough sell. I mean, will he be accepted? I don't know, and I don't want to judge anyone.
Right.
Okay. I don't want to judge anyone. Okay. But you know what? Let's be honest about it. I'm not a person of color.
Right.
So maybe it wouldn't offend me as much as it would offend somebody else.
Sure.
But the bottom line is what he did was wrong. And the people who are offended by it, I certainly understand.
As do I.
And I just don't know how that happens.
Right.
Now maybe he continues to consult the organization. But, him as an offensive coordinator, yeah, I don't know if that works.
Let's go to LSU. What do you think about, first of all, congratulations, the SEC on ABC. You got to be excited, right?
It's going to be a very interesting year. The one thing we don't know right now, other than the fact that we're going to have a 2:30 game, we don't know what the rest of the schedule is.
Okay.
We don't know if there's going to be an 11 o'clock game. We think there's going to be a night game, but we're really not sure. There's going to be some night games. We don't know how many night games there's going to be. So I think we need a little more clarification from ABC. But there's no doubt that the audience you're going to draw from Alabama, Oklahoma, even when LSU's not on, okay, the audience you're going to draw from Alabama and Oklahoma, or Alabama, Georgia, or Texas, LSU, or whatever, okay, the audience you're going to draw is going to be far more substantial than Ohio State, Michigan State.
No doubt.
And it's going to be double, triple that at least. And the fact that Texas and Oklahoma are both coming into the league is going to make it even more compelling. And you know me, I'm a huge college football fan. I love college football. Too. And I love going to the games on Saturday night. And I love the college game. I still love it, even with all its problems. Sure. I still love the college game, have always loved it. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, as you should be. I mean,
but the one thing I will say is, people have asked me, hey, do you know what the schedule is? The answer is we don't.
Yeah. What do you think about what Brian Kelly's done thus far with his coaching staff?
Oh, I like it. I like it. You know, I think that Baker's a good hire.
Davis.
They had to do something with that. I think that Bo Davis was a gigantic hire.
Me too.
Because the thing that Bo Davis can do is, Bo Davis is an excellent defensive line coach, and he can recruit.
Yes.
Corey Rain back, he can recruit.
He can recruit. Got Frank Wilson already in the house.
Frank Wilson already in the house. And the one thing you got to do is, you know, I saw some kind of, I was looking on my phone here a few minutes before you walked in, and there was some kind of preseason ranking of teams in the SEC. And LSU was ranked ahead of Alabama. And that's because Alabama has been so decimated in the transfer portal. So, you know, I think that LSU is going through this period now where they're going to be able to lock down the state. And
especially with Saban not at Alabama.
Right. And here's how I had a high school and college coach explain it to me. Here's what college coach told me. He said, look, the next guy will probably be a good coach. And I was very impressed with what I saw from Kalen DeBoer when he was here.
I agree.
Okay, and I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But anyhow, but in the future, Jalen Hurts is not going to leave Texas to come to Alabama.
Right, because he can go to Texas and be in the SEC.
Right. In the future, Tua Tagovailoa is not leaving Hawaii to come to Alabama. And he was a major draw. There's no question. And I think that it's kind of balanced it out a little bit. And the thing that LSU has done now that they never could do consistently, they never had the quarterback position figured out.
It's been amazing, the run there at quarterback.
And when you think about a quarterback commits like Underwood, commits to LSU and says, hey, I want to go a place where it's quarterback you.
Right.
Well, nobody ever thought that LSU would be called quarterback you.
No, not
I mean, how many years did we watch bad quarterbacks?
Bad quarterback, right.
Right, and that's not the case anymore.
Is Sloan going to be the offensive coordinator in your opinion?
I think there's a pretty good chance of that.
Based on Underwood, I would think so, right?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance of that.
Now, if Harbaugh leaves Michigan, is Kelly a candidate?
I think that job goes to Sharon Moore.
Okay.
The guy's already on staff.
Right. How about Tulane? What do you think about? I mean, I got to be honest with you. Summerall has done such a great job in such a short period of time. I mean, look, you're all in high school football. To get a 5-star wide receiver from Alabama in the transfer portal, to get a 5-star wide receiver from USC in the transfer portal, to flip a 4-star from Auburn in the transfer portal, and wait a minute, you got a 5-star quarterback from Oregon. This is unprecedented too.
Right. Well, I mean, look, I think that, I know Coach Summerall. I knew him when he was here with Coach CJ before.
Yeah, right.
He's a very impressive guy, and I mean, he could talk a hungry dog off a meat wagon. Okay, he really could.
Okay.
And not only that, I think he's an excellent coach.
Yeah.
So
he's put together an excellent staff. It looks like as well.
And you know what? I think also too, when it comes to NIL and raising money and all that stuff, Mike Arata, I don't know if you've met Mike.
I know Mike. Yeah.
Who's part of the Fear the Wave collective with Jimmy Ordno and Kelly Camarda and those guys. I think they've done a really nice job, and they've helped the football program tremendously.
Yeah, I agree.
The one thing I want to know, look, I'm convinced that I don't know how big he's going to win, but I'm convinced John Summerall is going to win.
Me too.
All right. Here's what I want to know. When are we going to see new facilities built?
Ed, that was my next question.
Okay.
The Willie Fritz in Houston because of those facilities,
Well,
in my opinion.
But and I know a lot of people disagree with me.
Right.
But if Courtney Gaucher had gotten that job,
I
Willie
agree.
Fritz would still be here.
Well, you did the interview. You've talked about it. You were the kind of guy that broke the story. I've talked about my radio show, and I agree 100%
You know,
with you.
Willie Fritz would still be here.
I agree with you.
And, you know, I know people watching this right now will scoff and say, oh, you know, you're anti-Tulane and all this other stuff. You know what?
You're the farthest thing from anti-Tulane.
Right.
Come on.
So, but that's what I hear.
Right.
Okay? That's what I hear. That's why I get emails.
It wasn't just Fritz that wanted Gaucher. All the other coaches wanted Gaucher as well, right?
Right. But here's the deal. You know, it's October, and Dannon's left. Okay. You know that jobs are opening.
Right.
And somebody told me back in September or whatever, look, that Houston job is going to open. Dana Holgerson's not going to make it, and that job is going to open, and they're coming after Fritz.
So if you knew it,
Right. Well, I mean, the agents knew it, Tulane knew it.
they had to know it.
Right. So my point is, Eric, is that I don't know if I've ever heard in an interview, and I go to the press conference every Tuesday, okay? I don't know if I've ever heard a coach say, I want this guy.
Right. Not that coach for sure, right?
Right. But I don't know if I've ever heard any coach in a press conference say, look, we have an opening for the athletic director. We have a guy on campus that I want.
Right.
To me,
He's my guy. That what he
he's
said?
my guy. Willie Fritz should have gotten that consideration.
Yes.
And if he had, it would have been very hard for him to leave
I
here.
agree with you.
But that's all water under the bridge.
But they did hit a home run with the guy they brought in, Summerall.
Oh, no question. No question.
Now, I think the one difference is Willie Fritz might have been a guy that might have stayed till retirement. I think you're looking at Summerall. If he's successful in 3 years, he's in the Power 5.
Well, let me ask you this.
Nothing wrong with that.
This year, Kentucky surprises everybody, wins 11 games again, and Mike Leach leaves. Who's a Kentucky graduate? John Summerall.
Right.
I mean, look, I can put 2 and 2 together there. So, and if Mike Leach, not Mike Leach, Mark Stoops.
Mark Stoops, yeah.
I had the wrong
That's okay.
wrong coach. And
I was getting ready to say
apologize.
something. That's
yeah.
okay.
Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops. If he would have left, I think Summerall would have gotten that job.
Me too.
So, you know, but again, the ability to continue to extend the excellence of the program, to me, depends on the facility.
But you've been talking about that for decades, right?
I understand, but what I'm saying is, I was told, and Mike Arata said something to us on our Sports Zone show.
Right. I watched
that the permits have been approved and that the bubble is going to be built.
Right.
And to me, the clock is ticking. It's been over a year now, almost 13 months since Tulane won the Cotton Bowl. If that building is not up by next January, then to me that is a major failure.
I would agree.
It doesn't take that long to build it. Brown Field is where they're going to build it, where the old Tulane Sugar Bowl Stadium was. In fact, the crown on the field is still there.
Right.
I tell kids about that. They look at me like I'm from out of space.
Right.
But that place, that should be ready to go. And if it's not, and they're not building the other facility that they talked about behind Yulman Stadium in the north end zone with additional suites and a facility back there.
Your football ops facility.
Football ops facility. If that's not under construction relatively soon,
but
then I think you got to ask, hey, what's going on
I
here?
agree with you. And maybe I made a mistake. Not just football. That's going to be for the entire athletic department, right? That ops facility. Not football only. A lot of colleges have football only ops facility, but they're going to share that, right? Am I right?
I don't know. I think that's going to be football only.
Okay. Because I heard they were going to share that.
But let's go back about 13, 14 years when all the discussion of Yulman Stadium heated up.
Yep.
Okay.
You thought they should have went with the field house, right?
I would have built the indoor practice facility with a Taj Mahal athletic training table and new weight room and all of that. I would have invested 60 or 70 million in that and continue to play downtown. And everyone's like, oh, no, we don't want to play. Look, I've never seen a stadium make a tackle. When Tulane is good, they have good crowds at Yeoman Stadium. When they're bad, nobody comes to the games.
Right.
So, to me, regardless of, we could debate that all day. We could do 100 of these shows and talk about that till the end of time. But to me, the one thing you've got to do is you've got to have those facilities.
I agree. And that's the reason why Fritz is in Houston, in my opinion, and that will determine if Summerall, and I believe he'll be successful, the next coach, what type of quality coach they're going to get the next time around. So we'll see.
They were extremely fortunate to get this guy.
Oh, there's no doubt.
They were extremely fortunate, and to get someone who knows the school and knows the area is tremendous.
I agree. Pelicans 25-17. They're 5th in the West now. They're 2 games out of the 4th spot where the Clippers are, and they're 7-3. In the last 5 games, if anybody wants to know, out of first place. They beat Charlotte last night 132-112, had 25 threes, a franchise record from 3. BI gets a triple-double, 28, 10, and 10. Also, again, Zion had 9 assists and 6 rebounds. I'm not going to go through the whole deal. They did trade Kyra Lewis yesterday to get under the luxury tax threshold in that 3-way deal for Pascal Siakam with Indiana and the Raptors. I guess my first question is, how good do you think this team is? How far do you think they can go with the present cast? Because it doesn't look like when the trading deadline comes along with, again, them trying to get under the luxury tax threshold, that they're going to be willing to make a big splash.
I wouldn't be shocked if they traded Jonas Valanciunas.
Okay.
Maybe to get a little more. Maybe to get a little more rim protection.
Cap room? Okay. More rim protection. Well, I thought they should have gone after the athletic big. I think he's played really well this year, but he is an expiring contract.
Right.
And so is Najee Marshall.
Right. Which is gold in the NBA.
Right.
And I love Jonas Valanciunas.
Me too.
And
Double guy every night.
I think he's done a great job for this franchise. And the thing about it is, he always shows up. He's not only is he very good, but he's very dependable.
Right. And again, hopefully he's also a guy that is teaching some of these young guys how to be pros, because he is the epitome of a guy that's an Iron Man, that's going to play every game.
Yeah, I mean he's awesome. Right. Okay, there's no other getting away around it.
Is there a but coming?
No, I just think that if the Pelicans can stay healthy, this is not a team I would want to play in the playoffs.
I would agree with that.
I think they can win 1 round. I think they could possibly win 2. It would be hard. I don't think they can beat Denver in a 7-game series.
What are they missing, Ed?
I don't know. One of those things is experience.
Right. I would agree with that.
But if you look at their numbers, though, in defense and rebounding and points, they're all around that top 10. It's not.
Sure.
They're not number 1 in the league in any of those categories, but they're all. The one thing that I think they've got to do a better job of is closing out games.
Right.
Because if they're 25-17 right now, Eric, how many games have they given away?
It's at least 6 or 7.
I mean, the Dallas, the Dallas loss on Monday. Oh my God.
Right.
It was just annoying to watch that.
Well, the free throws, lack of rebounding. Now, those are 2 things that have been a problem for this team.
But you know what? They don't have Luka. You got to take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's an urgency game to me.
I agree.
And it didn't happen. So I would say that lack of experience is part of it. But if you look at their guys, I think they have a very intriguing team.
Right.
I really do. And the thing that I think makes them even more dangerous is this. And I've advocated for this for months, and so has Kenny. And he said it on our radio show on Saturday mornings. Okay. Jordan Hawkins has to play.
Right. And he is now. You're seeing that. Alvarado has really kind of moved to the bench now.
Jordan Hawkins has moved to the forefront because in the NBA, where outside shooting, 3-point shooting, is at such a premium.
That's right.
He's forced his way into the lineup. You cannot not have him on the court.
I agree.
And he's got to get, to me, he's got to get anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes a game. and that's going to take somebody else's minutes.
Yep, and it's taking Alvarado's minutes right now.
Right.
You know.
And look, I love Alvarado.
Me too.
Okay,
He's a spark plug, right?
I think Alvarado's great.
Right.
Okay.
But he's not the shooter. This guy is.
The thing that Jordan Hawkins has is you know, you can see a guy who is a dead eye.
Right.
And knows that he believes that every time he shoots it, it's going in.
I agree with that.
And you know what? Those kind of guys. He was a great. You got to give David Griffin a lot of credit.
Oh, I do.
Look at the draft picks.
Right.
Jordan Hawkins was not an early first round pick. Trey Murphy was in the middle of the round.
Right.
Herb Jones, who's been spectacular, was a second round pick.
Right.
So I mean, they've drafted extremely well for not being right at the top.
Right. If anything, the picks right at the top have been more of a failure than the picks that, again, they're not inside the top of that lottery, right? I mean, when you look at it, I mean, you know, we'll see again how this kind of plays out. Do they have enough to go all the way, in your opinion? Okay, I'm just saying again, because look, they got 3 top.
I hope so.
Their top 3 guys are really good.
You know why I hope they go all the way? I have 2 reasons. Okay.
Right.
1, it would be great for the city.
It'd be incredible for the city.
Okay. 2, the games are on ABC.
Right. That's right. And y'all just had one. Y'all just had one.
So, you know, I remember going back to 2008.
Right.
I had just gotten back from San Antonio, and I felt like during that series, I felt like a resident of San Antonio.
Right.
And after the games, when we were hungry, we'd go to Mi Tierra to eat, which is downtown, right on the river, down there.
Riverwalk.
Yeah, Riverwalk.
Okay.
And great Mexican food and unbelievable pastries. Very unhealthy, but to eat those pastries.
Right.
But the food was outstanding. Okay. So anyhow, we eat at Mi Tierra's one night. I think it was game 6, and we fly back here. And I'm in the office the next day, and I'm tired. But anyhow, hey, everybody's jacked up and excited, right? I mean, the Pelicans are the Hornets at the time were
good.
They were really good, and they were getting ready to play Game 7 against the Spurs. If they won, they were going to the Western Conference Finals, which was incredible.
Right.
So I remember our general manager walking in, and this was $2008. He looked at me and he said, Ed, if the Hornets go to the finals, we're going to make $1 million as a station. He said, you'll get anything you want. And I was like, run that by me again?
Yeah.
But that's how incredible, not only from a fan standpoint, but from a business standpoint,
what they mean.
What they would mean if they got to the championship. I think it would be awesome. And look, quick story.
Yep, got about a minute and a half.
Okay. Last year, my wife's planning this exorbitant vacation.
Right.
She says, we're leaving town on June 18th. And she got really mad at me. And she told me that in December. And I said, honey, I don't want to spoil your party, but June 18th, I think, is Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And if the Pelicans are in the finals, and at that time, they were #1 in the West.
Yes, they were.
So that's a consideration, right?
Of course, it has to be.
Right. And I told her, I said, look, if the Pelicans are in the finals, I cannot leave till Tuesday. I can't leave.
Y'all were going to Europe, right?
Right. And she had an absolute fit. But I told the travel agent.
Right.
I said, look, I want to let you know I'm being as transparent as I can. It's December.
Right.
Okay. The Pelicans are in first place. It's something that you'd better consider. Now, it didn't turn out that way.
Right.
But that's what we thought as to how big their possibilities were.
Are they an athletic big away?
I don't know. I don't know. I think their health and they're a little inexperienced away yet.
Right.
But you know what? Somebody in the room, whether it's Zion or Brandon Ingram or CJ McCollum, somebody in the playoffs is going to be the alpha dog.
Right.
And I think you saw that from Brandon Ingram last time around when Zion was hurt.
And even last night with that triple-double.
And even last night with that triple. But somebody, I'm just curious who is the alpha dog that's going to grab the rest of the team by the ear and say, fellas, we're going?
Well, right now, it's Herb Jones. But can you have Herb Jones as your alpha?
You can't have Herb Jones as an alpha because he doesn't score enough.
That's right. I agree.
Okay? And look, that's no knock on Herb Jones.
Not at all.
He is a fantastic player.
He's the glue guy.
He's the glue guy.
Right.
He's the glue guy. But you got to have somebody, hey, in the last 2 minutes,
Right.
we need a basket, and he's going to make it.
Got to do it. Ed, thank you. Great hour. Always
Went
great
by
to have
quickly,
you.
didn't it?
It always does. It always does. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Ed Daniels, Sports Director at Channel 26 Sports. Appreciate having his time today. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen. They'll take you to my website, ericasher.com, or the WLAE-TV YouTube channel. Hey, set your DVR, as I say all the time, and you'll never miss the program. Also, you catch me on the radio, 106.1 FM. That is weekdays 4 to 6. You can listen live at ericasher.com, the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app. Also, our digital platforms. Anchor Spotify is where you can catch our podcasts. Want to thank the underwriters of our program that make this show possible, each and every one of them. Thanks for their support of our program. Please support our underwriters. And, of course, the folks here at WLAE-TV who do a great job producing our program. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Graffia, Alice Chacon, Danielle Wick, and, of course, William Hill, our director. For Ed Daniels, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next